everybody? What's up, family? Thank you for joining us this morning. Come on into the room, like this broadcast, and share this broadcast. We really need to have a robust discussion, and we will have a robust discussion this morning with a great group of Black men around this topic, this issue of the untimely death, the lynching of Tyre Nichols in Memphis. And so many emotions are running wild across the country, so many conversations, so many thoughts from so many different people. And so I just wanted to get a panel together and just hear the raw emotion and hear the thoughts, the perspectives, the solutions from Black men across the board on this particular topic. And so with me today is Errol, Herman, Glenn, and Marshall. And so let me just get right to it and just kind of hear some initial thoughts from this panel about just their initial thoughts when they heard about this untimely lynching of Tyre Nichols by five. You all have seen the video, by five Memphis police officers. What's tricky about this situation is most of the time we hear about these stories is a white police officer brutalizing or killing a Black unarmed person. But this time it was different. It was five Black police officers decimating, lynching, beating a Black man. And so, Glenn, I'll come to you first. Just give me your initial thoughts when you heard about this untimely beating and lynching of Tyre Nichols.
What's going on, brothers? I actually had known about the situation a couple of days ago because my brother, he's a police officer in Houston, and he told us to be on the lookout for this video of these Memphis police officers who had killed this young man. So didn't really know exactly what was going on. But once seeing the video, man, really just, I'm still trying to process what took place. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what was going on that night for those five police officers, but five brothers who decided to take this young man's life. So it's still difficult to even take in what took place. So because I have a 15-year-old son.
Errol, talk to us just your initial thoughts when you heard about this news and saw that video.
Watch the video. It's a tragedy, no doubt. No matter how you slice it, you have a young man that lost his life, and then you had these brothers that was involved in taking this young man's life. And so I think my initial thoughts was like, okay, well, let me sit down and watch the video myself, and then once I gather all the facts, then I can make a statement with clarity. And so it's two things that I do want to say about the video after I watched the entire video. I think Memphis Police Department, they released like 4 different videos. I think it was like accumulation of like 50-something minutes. What I do want to say is that it's a tragedy. I think that the officers took it way too far. It should have never gotten to that point. I mean, you had this guy down on the ground. It's 5 of y'all, just totally going to work on him. I think one of the main things that, and we see that part, but one of the main things that I did notice is that, okay, well, what led up to this initially? And so as I sat and I watched the video, it was about 4 things that kind of just like stood out to what led up to this. And am I excusing these officers? No, I'm not excusing these officers at all. They should have been professional. They should have been known when to stop, period. But the initial things that led up to this is that was
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
one of the major things. So if you watch the entirety of the video, all right, they first stop the young man, and then the officers are telling him, get out, lay flat on the ground, put your hands up. Okay, so as they're telling him this, he's immediate.
Errol, hold
Go
on.
ahead. Yeah.
Errol,
Yes.
hold on 1 second. Hold that thought, because I know you want to get into an explanation there. Let me get to the other brother's initial thoughts really quick, and then I'm gonna wrap around to this back to your deeper thought.
Oh,
Okay. But I know it's a lot you want to unpack there and a lot of emotion when it comes to that. Herman, get in here. Initial when you saw the video, heard about the news of Tyre Nichols.
Well, when I heard the news, it was another. All you can say is then another one. I mean, since just last year, 2021, you had 1,145 people killed by police officers. Correction, 1,176 just last year. The most ever since they started recording in 2013. Now we know if we go all the way back before they did the statistics, there's been way more. But you're talking about just since Floyd been killed since 2020, you're talking about over 2,500 people that's been killed by the hands of the police. But you had a gentleman, and we missed what the context of the stop was, but you have a unit, which again, the Scorpion unit, these units never work. If you go back to Prohibition, these units never work. Prohibition, they taking bribes. Then you had the mafia ones in New York. You had all these special units. When have they actually worked to police our neighborhoods? But you have essentially a gang whooped this gentleman. I mean, whooped. I mean, they throwing bolos, hitting them with bars. Yeah. I mean, what I took out of it, they sat there and was upset because they sprayed themselves with the deterrent, and that's when they just became animals. They became animals and whooped this man. Yeah. I mean, they whooped him to the point the man couldn't even scream. What I mean, come on. And then they wonder why we're afraid to pull over or shoot. Basically, we on the phone say, hey, this might be the last time I talk to somebody when I'm getting pulled over by the police. I mean, it's I mean, and our politicians, like, this is a time for reflection. Sure, that time was 2020 when Floyd, but these folks, they know they had body cameras. These folks know they got body cameras on. Did they care? No. Yeah. They knew they had eyes in the sky. Did they care? No. These were animals that sat there and beat a defenseless man.
Absolutely. I'll get to you, Errol. I want you to come back to those points that you wanted to make there for us for a second. And you talked about just your initial and some of the things that you went into deeper reflection about. What were some of those points that you said once you saw the video that you lifted out of it?
Well, okay, so when I first started to watch the video, the initial stop, they were in the street. And so they opened up the door, and then, they immediately started to pull the young man out. So as they began to pull the young man out, he was asking them, why am I being stopped? Why am I being stopped? And so they're telling him to lay flat, put your hands up, lay flat, put your hands up. And he's just, well, what did I do? Why am I being stopped? Just going back and forth with them. And so initially they did get him out the car, and then they put him on the ground. They still giving him the same command: lay flat, put your hands up. Lay flat, put your hands up. And he's going, why am I being stopped? You name it. So as they continue to give him this command, he's just going back and forth with them. So that's when the guy pulled out, one of the officers pulled out the taser, threatened to taser him, and then he did taser him. Then the other cop pulled out his pepper spray, and then, began to pepper spray him. And I guess he messed around and pepper sprayed himself. And so the pepper spray went in his eyes. And Somewhere in between there, the young man, he got loose. He took off running. All right. So when the next video footage comes in, because they had like the three of the officers body cams. All right. So the next video that comes in, they show them they stopped the young man at this point. All right, and they telling him the same command: lay flat, put your hands up. Lay flat, put your hands up. All right. So this went on for almost about 5 to 10, at least 10 minutes of them giving him the same command, but he was just not complying whatsoever. And that's when the blows start coming in. The kicking, the punching, the baton. This is going on because the young man would just not lay flat and put his hands up. And so my thing is that, okay, well, he's resisting arrest. He's resisting arrest at that point. And I understand that his initial might have been angry, why am I being stopped? But it's one thing the old schools in my neighborhood always told us. It's like, you never give these people a reason to act a fool. And it's like, if an officer is giving you that command, that's not a request, that's a command. And I understand that, your emotions are going wild. Why am I being stopped? Go ahead. I'm sorry, what you say?
But you're saying no matter the situation, no matter what's going on, just do it. Just comply. Just go along with it, even if you know that you are being detained. Just go along with it.
Yeah, yes, and this is why. Because one of my lawyer friends told me this, and I can back this up with information. One of my lawyer friends told me this. He said the way the officers are trained now, they train to treat you as an enemy combatant. Okay, and so once you're behind enemy lines, once they stop you, you are now behind enemy lines. So your job is to make it home safely. So, and if you look into the training in the U.S. that has taken place with officers over the last few years, they actually begin training by the IDF. The ideology, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the IDF. The IDF is Israeli Defense, the Israeli Defense Force. So the tactics that they are using in the everyday community, this is treating people like an enemy combatant. So I'm saying all that to say, as Black men, our job is to make it home safely. So we have to do what we need to do in order to get home safely. And then once we get home, we can get to the process to where we can fight the system or let the law take its course. But the not complying, go ahead.
Let me jump. No, but let me jump in. Let me get Glenn in here. Glenn, you hear what Errol said. He says this is things that it was what the officers did was wrong, but he feels it's also a compliance issue on the part of Tyre. What are your thoughts on that?
That's hard when you know that you are a good person. You pulled me over. Tell me what you pulled me over for. Just what's so hard to say, hey man, what happened to pull up to your car? It happened to me. My windows were dark. I rolled my window down. Hey officer, hey, how you doing? Just tell me what I did. To say, hey, if I know I'm a good person and I know I've not done anything wrong, I ain't got drugs in my car, I don't have a bad record, and you don't even answer the question, I have the right to ask the question. And the reason why I say that, because I have a brother who's, I won't tell you what department he's in, but he's a police officer. And I even question him some days, like, bro, what do you do? Like, he's like, man, hey, I come from a different place of how I police people. They pulled this man over for what reason? That's the thing. Did he have a warrant? Has he been caught up in some type of drug activity? Have they been watching him or anything? Or was tonight their night where they was on a power trip? I heard somebody say this. A lot of people become places and leaders because they are weak and unknown in other places. So some of these men might be weak men at home. Some of these men are nobodies in the community. Some of these men, they've been punked in school. And now they done became police officers. And because they got a badge and a gun and a baton, they walk around and says, you got to do as I say. Now, I agree. We got to get home. But even as me, as a 42-year-old man who has no record, who is a good person, if I get pulled over today, I'm still going to ask the question, officer, what did I do? How hard is that to answer the question? Hey, man, I pulled you over because you were speeding. Okay, cool. I know to shut my mouth, get my driver's license, give him a ticket, and let's keep it pumping. But if a man just simply asked the question, and it took 5 guys, that right there what bothers me. Five guys for a kid who don't even look like he weighed, as I'm reading, the lady say, my son weighed 150 pounds, and you got cats pounding on him. That is a problem. That's a fundamental problem within the police department, because I believe a lot of people police out of fear. They don't know how to be community connective to where they know. I remember growing up and the police knew everybody in the community. But what the next problem is, as Herman said, you are making task force, but you're arresting the wrong people. It's people who murdering, selling drugs, doing all type of things, but we don't go after them because a lot of them are taking the money underneath the table, but we'll beat the hell out of somebody else who ain't got nothing going for themselves. That's what bothers me.
So look, I hear you. I hear that passion. Let me get Marshall in here. Marshall, you've heard what Glenn was. Do you think there's a leadership issue here? Do you think this is a training issue here? Do you think this is a compliance issue with that led to this type of beating of Tyre Nichols? What are your thoughts, Marshall?
Based on my experience, there are several things that are going on here. My initial thought when I saw the initial video was that he was being non-compliant and resisting. But after doing further review and further thought, my question began to analyze what was the probable cause for them to stop him anyway. What was the probable cause for them to pull him out of the vehicle? To pull him out of the vehicle. So so when I started looking at those questions, then I want to go further into trying to understand the mindset of that team, because the team generally takes up the personality of its leadership. And the next issue I had was that why is it that the supervisor was not on the scene? So that means that his team did not call him before they went in on this guy. The next thing I started thinking about was this. Was he a person of interest in a case that was dealing with the issues in the community and it led to him? Let me give you an example. The movie Snowfall, and we all know this. A dope dealer ain't gonna let you know who he is. A criminal is not going to let you know who he is. You see where I'm coming from? So with that, he's a ghost until we find him. But what they did was they took justice in their own hands when they shouldn't have. Now, there are some other scenarios that we can put into this. Are those officers working with somebody in the street to get rid of a rival competitor? And they being paid in order to do it? Are they involved in the criminality and this young man didn't pay up or either didn't do what he was supposed to do and they took him out in the wrong way? They didn't think this thing all the way out. So there's a whole lot of variables that you could put into this, but I would say mainly is this. We have a problem in our own community. Instead of running around blaming the police, which I'm not saying that they're not culpable in what they're doing. But what I am saying is that we as a people need to start reanalyzing how we need to police our own people in our own community. Because we got to tell our young men, to be frank with you, if I'm stopped, I'm going to roll down my window. I'm going to put my hands up on the steering wheel. And when he come up, he's going to say, sir, can I have your driver's license and your insurance? And I'm going to say, sir, I'm going to reach inside my glove compartment to pull it out for you. And once he say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to ask him any questions of why you stopped me or anything like that, because that could agitate the officer. That's number one. Number two, I'm just going to get my ticket, and I'm going to take it wherever I need to take it and take care of what I need to take care of in the courts, the way the system is supposed to operate. Have I been pulled out of my car before and I'm an officer? Yes. I've been accused of sitting in the park smoking weed, but it was a cigar. But I didn't fight it on the street. I fought it in the court. You see where I'm coming from? We got to understand we are in their system.
I do.
And being in their system, we have to be able to know how to navigate it. Go ahead.
So let me jump in for a second, Marshall, and I appreciate you laying that out right here on the Damien Network, talking with four brilliant black men about this death of Tyre Nichols, how we find solutions, our thoughts about it, how it makes us feel. Herman, I'm coming to you. You've heard what Marshall has had to say. He talks about a compliance piece. He's talking piece. Arrow has talked about compliance as well, making it home to your family. Glenn is talking about just the interaction with the police. But there's another layer I want to lift up here. These were five African-American men who beat this man like a rag doll for whatever reason. I don't know if it was, again, if it was some type of criminality going on, if this was just some type of rogue activity by this Scorpion unit that derived from the Red Dog unit in Atlanta. I don't know. But as a black man, Herman, as a man who is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and you guys hold yourselves to a high standard. We also understand that 3 of those black men are members of Omega Psi Phi, and we know that we hold these groups to a higher standard in our community. But how does it make you feel that 5 of our own did this to our brother Tyre Nichols?
It's not even about it being our own, because right now, when they put on that uniform, they're hiding behind that thin blue line. So they're not even representing us when they put on that uniform. So I don't even look. I didn't even. Yeah, it hurts that these gentlemen supposed to be one of us, but when they put it on that blue line again, like I said before, they became a gang. When they joined this, a 30-person unit, they became a gang, and they had a gang mentality. I don't even care if they're Greek, because at the end of the day, you're a human being that murdered another human being. I mean, gentleman, Marshall said earlier about, comply. Well, Philandro Castile, he was complying when he was just showing them, hey, I have a concealed weapon license. What about him? Tamir Rice was just playing in a park, and the police was in the park for no more than 6 seconds before they began shooting this man. Have I been stopped? Look, I was raised in my adult years in Louisiana. I used to drive that Houston to New Orleans corridor, that I-10 corridor, plenty of weeks, months. And I can count how many times I've been pulled over, so many times, and was blessed to go home. I remember I was driving in traffic, and the cop pulled me over, and he said I was following a truck too closely. And I looked around, and I said, well, it's rush hour. been pulled over because my license plate was over my license plate. It's a Texas license. It goes over the Texas rules. So, to say comply. Yes, ideally, as I learned as an adult, I learned how to talk my way out of situations. But at the end of the day, why were they pulled over? If he was a criminal, that was the first thing they would have put out. If he was a drug dealer, that was the first thing they would have put out. If he was a killer, that would have been the first thing. They have nothing to say about this guy. This man got up and ran because he was in fear of his life. This was a I'm scared, and he ran. Soon as he got loose, these boys look like they can play linebackers for the 49ers right now. These are how big these boys were, attacking a kid that
some big brothers, yeah.
I don't want to even say a kid, because this was a grown man. They beat this grown man like he was a child. Okay, not even a child, because they threw some haymakers. I had to turn it off. I was like, okay, I'm good. I didn't watch the whole thing. I skipped through it and saw what I needed to see. Yeah. You had 5 people jump on a man and in pure rage, especially after one of them sprayed each other, and that just pissed them off and put him. I mean, literally held this man up like they were a gang. This man running for his life got caught after screaming. I mean, shucks, it's almost like Floyd again, screaming for his mama. It's something when a grown black man is screaming for his mama on the side of the street. Okay. Got hit with a metal pole 3 times. Wailed. I felt the punch on how hard. Marshall, said, we got to do this. We have to do that. But we're not asking our counterparts to do that. We're not asking the colonizers to do that. Because the colonizers can sit there and curse out the police. I remember I watched a video. A gentleman had a gun in his lap. A gun in his lap. That man made it home. And he put his hand on his weapon. He made it home. So why do we have to live through a certain rule compared to to our very own citizens? Because at the end of the day, we are all Americans. At the end of the day, we fall under the same Constitution. We all have the same civil rights. But no, we have to. We got to police ourselves? No. Yes, they done systematically put more brothers in jail than any race in America. Systematically made single moms raise these kids to be black men, because all our black men are in jail or 6 feet under. But we got to police how can we when we have broken homes, but our colonizers counterparts, they okay. They and it before it used to be about black and whites, but now it's about economically mean.
Yeah. But
let me jump in for a second. Errol, coming to you. Wait, hold on, Marshall. Hold on. Well, who's it? That's go ahead, Glenn. Then I'm coming to Errol, and then I'll get you in, Marshall. Go ahead, Glenn.
I was just pulling up. It says the Scorpion stands for Street Crime Operation to Restore Peace in Our Neighborhoods. Just let that sit in. To restore peace in our neighborhoods. But there's another article that says this, that I'm trying to pull it up, that the Scorpion, this Scorpion task force, a total of 390 of these have been felon arrests between October 2021 and January 23, 2022. In addition, the unit has seized about 253 weapons. The purpose, Scorpion was created to address violent crimes such as homicides, aggravated assaults, robberies, carjackings within Memphis. This unit also addresses motor vehicle theft from motor vehicles and other felony offenses. So here it is. This task force was made not to do normal stops. Hey, if you run a light, man, we ain't looking for you. We ain't looking for you. We looking for as we were saying earlier, the homicides, the aggravated assault, the robberies. What did he do to be pulled over by this gang? I guarantee you, and it just bothers me because once again, They put a task force together to do these things. But as Herman said, what have they, if he was one of those, they would have plastered it across the captured, killed, all of that. But they can't even do that. And that's what's bothersome. 566 people have been arrested. But none of these, they were not created to do traffic stops. So just think about
reckless driving. That I got killed for reckless driving. Execution for reckless driving. Let's
go ahead.
Come on. When are we going to stop? When are we going to stop this? You know.
Hold on. Let me get Errol in here. I hear the passion. I know it's a passionate issue. Errol in here. And I'm coming back to you, Marshall. Errol, you heard the conversation, but I want to start, and you can take it where you want to take it. But as a black man, how does it make you feel that 5 of our own who raised their right hand to protect and serve the city of Memphis and to keep it safe by any means necessary committed these type of acts toward our brother and took his life? Well, your thoughts, Errol?
I believe they were wrong. I think they took it way too far. And the fact that you had these 5 officers and nobody was like, well, you know what? Hey guys, he's had enough. Let's stop. Is, you know, nobody was there to use just plain common sense. I think that does go back to that training as well, because it's 5 officers there. It's 5 officers. Why does it take 5 officers to take down this guy that's only about 150 pounds? And so what I did see with the video, because just like you are, I was trying to figure out, okay, what exactly was this guy being stopped for? Okay. If you watch the Memphis Police Department video, one of the officers towards the end, towards the last video, he comes in and he was like, okay, they initially tried to stop him, okay, but he did not stop. He kept driving. And so as he kept driving, he started to cut in and out of traffic. Not only did he cut in and out of traffic, he started to drive into oncoming traffic, okay? So he was going in a totally opposite direction. So by the time they eventually caught up with them, that's when we seen them like, hey, you know what, we've had enough. They start jerking them out the car at that point, all right? And so it also goes back to what I was kind of saying earlier and what Marshall was saying about compliance, because the entire time that they were hitting this guy when he was on the ground, he was not complying. He was not complying. They were telling him, hey, lay flat, put your hands up. He was like, why do I have to do this? You know, he started crying for his mom. He just would not comply. But a thing that I do want to hold on, let me finish right quick. A thing that I do want to point out, and they might not say this, but it's definitely in the police department's video. Okay, one of the guys like, okay, I believe that he is on something. Okay, so when he pointed that out, I was like, okay, but let me go back to the video towards the beginning. When you go back to the video towards the beginning, yeah, it looked like he was on something. It looked like he was on something, and that might have played a part to why he was paranoid and did not comply. Now, am I giving them a excuse? No, I'm not giving them an excuse. They should have known as trained professionals when to say this guy had enough. But you can clearly see throughout the video, he was not complying. And that might have played a big part to why he was not complying. All right. So at the end of the day, like I say, it's still a tragedy, no doubt. But what could have been some preventive actions before it even got to this point? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I feel like that we as a people, yeah, we see the end result of what happened. It shouldn't have gone that far. But like I say, what were the initial actions that even led up to this taking place in the first place? And you cannot push that aside. You have to bring that factor that in as well.
Damien, I just want to say a couple of things before you go to Marshall.
Well, hold on, wait, hold on. I gotta go to Marshall. Hold that, make that note, and I'm coming to you after Marshall. Jump in here, Marshall, because I know you got some things you want to.
Yeah, forgive me, and once I also want to say I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to be on here, and these podcasts are important because we look at individuals I'm so sick and tired of our community looking toward individuals to make decisions for us. We got to start making decisions for ourselves. First of all, our education system is not educating our black kids. That's number one. Number two, when you don't have a man in the household, you don't know discipline. So therefore, you are being disciplined on the street. That's why he's calling mama. I'm sorry. You know, that's what a kid does. It's called mama. If you're a grown man, handle your business. I'm not running around here riding dirty. I'm not running around here with dope in my system. And if you are, man, understand if you get stopped and you got dope on you, or if you got dope inside of you, you're not making good decisions, bro. You need to stay at home. So I understand we got systemic problems in the black community, and we don't need a Al Sharpton standing up there telling us that the police is bad. Not all the police is bad, because 75% of police officers are black. We are the ones who got the jobs. We are the ones who know who's doing what they're doing in the street. We all know who the dope dealer is. We know who Sweet Pea is. We know that Sweet Pea is out there doing all the stuff that he's doing. But we want to sit back and not say anything about it. We got these preachers standing inside of the pulpits, not telling our young men that they need to start getting themselves educated and understand how this game is played. Now, I understand what you're saying, Herman, and I agree with you. I got you, bro. We've been done bad. Our people been done bad from the beginning. But you got to understand, this is a game that they had set up. And if we don't understand the game that they have set up, even when we get into the game, when we get into the blue, we do the same doggone thing, man. Because it's not about black or white or racism or anything like that. It's about power. And what's happening on the streets right now? It's about power. Defunding the police ain't doing nothing but putting nothing but bad police on the police department. That's what's happening. You're not getting the best of the best. In my day, it was the best of the best. And I knew how to deal with the brothers. I knew how to deal with them. My recidivism rate with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice was very, very low. It's because I took those brothers and I tried to get them through the system, telling them what the game is about. And now, if they did not follow the rules, like I told them, you do what you're supposed to do, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. You don't do what you're supposed to do, brother, I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. I don't care what you got to say. Because at this particular point, you are the property of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So what I'm trying to say to you here is this. We have an issue in our community of understanding how the system is, in that we must comply. When they say lay down, just lay down, bro. Give them your ID. Do what you need to do for them not to hit on you. If they tell you to get out of the car, just like they pulled me out of the car in the park one day, I let them pull me out and sit me down, put the handcuffs on me. And then once they found out who I was, then they took the handcuffs off. But I'm not going to fight them on the streets, bro.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Hold on, Marshall. I got you. Herman, go ahead. Then Glenn, I'm coming to you.
I get you what you're saying, Arrow, that he, I'm sorry if I missed that they said this gentleman had drug in his system. I'm sorry that I missed that police chase they said that they were doing. Because again, police was going to put out the narrative and they're going to put out the evidence. You want to go home or you want to go to jail? Yeah. Where's the evidence? Where's the video of the police chase? Because they had nothing but cameras. They had to usually when you start your encounter, boop, that camera comes on. If this gentleman was doing all that weaving and bobbing, trust me, we would have had video evidence, because they're gonna sit there and protect themselves. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, do I believe they can go outside and tell me the sky is blue and I'm going to go look? Because anything they tell me right now, they full of it. You got again, it goes back to, you got 5 people whooping on this guy. You talking about, well, he should have put his hands in his back. The first thing I'm gonna do is protect my head. I'm gonna do everything to protect myself and my body from these blows these cops are giving. Now, granted, they're supposed to give blows so that he can comply, but they were beating this guy mercilessly. It was nothing pretty. Again, we keep screaming, comply. Again, I bring back Mr. Castile in Minnesota. He was complying. He was shot point blank. You talk about Jamil Rice was a kid that was playing in the park. He didn't even get a chance to comply, and he was killed. Okay. I've been pulled over so many times, and I've walked away and been blessed to walk away from every encounter that I have had with a police officer on frivolous stops. So yes, I know how to talk my way out of it, but I also had the education in criminology to know how to talk to a police officer. I have plenty of friends, so I know how to do it. I'm blessed enough, but when our folks aren't, our folks in our community aren't, and so
that's the point.
So again, we go. I remember I took a fellow Texas Southern mate back home to New Orleans with me. He was from New Orleans. We both got pulled over. You want to see a polar opposite of two individuals? I'm a military brat. So I was raised different. My guy, he came from the streets of New Orleans, and he was playing in the band at Texas Southern University. We went home. We got pulled over because I had a rental car. Okay, because I usually drive late at night, so I don't get pulled. I got pulled over. They took everything out of our car. This man was nervous. The police said, "You are a cool customer." I'm sitting there talking, kikiing and all that. My guy was nervous as hell. So what's wrong with this guy? He's from New Orleans. We've had so many, it's just a different vibe. But you can see the two difference in individuals. But again, we want to put comply, but we don't know what each individual has been. Oh, he must have been in drugs. Or he just might have been a fear of his life, because a lot more people, they got a fight or flight mentality. He had that flight mentality, and he sat and decided to try to conserve his own life.
Herman, let me jump in. Let me jump in, Herman. Glenn, hop in here. Then Marshall, I'm coming back to you.
This is the thing. We live in a social media world. And as Herman said, and all you have beautifully said, yes, we have to comply. But we see what complying does sometimes. Because you can comply with others and it's cool, but then you can comply with others and you get the hell beat out of you. And I'll use for a prime example, that's something that's near and dear to my heart that happened right in the very city of Memphis. My brother was murdered by someone. The person still had the gun in their hand. The person is still alive today. Because they use rubber bullets to put the suspect down. My brother is dead and gone. The suspect, well, no longer a suspect, is alive today. So once again, I don't feel that even certain people you can't comply with. I believe you, Marshall.
Okay. Did he get stuck?
I think he froze up.
I think he froze up.
Go ahead with your point, Marshall. Then we'll come back to something. Go ahead, Marshall.
Well, this is my thing, because see, like I said, it was very complex, and I get what Herman is saying. I appreciate what both of the other brothers are saying. Listen, not only are we dealing with an issue of compliance and resistance on that end, we have the other end that I've been consistent in my message, is that we have incompetent police officers. 2.5 years, and you put him in a specialized unit without supervision. That's not good. I don't care if you're black or white. You got to have somebody that know the streets, that have experience to teach these young people that are coming in. And that was my last point that I was making before, is that when you have incompetent police officers and you're talking about defunding the police, you're not getting the best of the best. You're not getting the brothers that have the education that Herman and I have, or the others that are on this panel. not the experiences that we've grown up in where, you know, I grew up in a predominantly white community in Plano, Texas, up until I was in the 12th grade. So I understand that language. So we have to, as leaders, go back and start teaching our people how this game is set up and how to navigate this game. We can't allow them to continue to teach our kids from the suburbs in the inner city. We got to start teaching our own children. We can't keep them in these public schools anymore because they're indoctrinating our kids and they're not teaching our kids how to live. And that's what we need, especially when we have single mothers that are basically raising the family and not men in there that are given the discipline that our young men need. Because if our young men understood how the game is played, we'll do it a whole lot differently, just like voting. Why you keep voting these people in that are talking about defund the police and it's hurting our communities the most? Why you keep voting these people in that are letting people come in over the doggone border and they come into our communities? They selling their dope in our communities. And they hiring our people in our communities to sell the dope to our people. So I'm sorry, I'm not blaming nobody. I'm just saying, number one, those police officers, in my opinion, were incompetent, undertrained, overworked, and then not only that, thrown under the bus for whatever reason. Because once we find out the initial reasons for the probable cause for them stopping him, whether it be him weaving in and out of traffic or whether he had been investigated, I don't know that. But once I do find that out, we'll know what the truth is. But those officers are going to get it worse than Chauvin did in George Floyd. What needed to happen was way back in Texas a long time ago when Al Sharpton came here, when they had that noose inside of that city, wherever it was, I can't remember. And he didn't stand out there and tell our people how we can be able to navigate this thing rather than protest. Man, the protests in Martin Luther King days were to liberate us and give us our rights. But today we are giving it back to them because we're allowing them to come up with the narrative rather than we come up with the narrative. That's all I'm saying.
And to kind of like go back to what Herman was saying. So I understand exactly what you're saying about Philando Castile. I think that that's one of the rare cases to where you did have absolute compliance and it still turned out tragic.
The police officer.
Yeah. Now, am I saying this? Am I saying it's a cookie cutter? It's a cookie cutter shape for all situations? No, I'm not saying it's a cookie cutter cutout for all situations. I say that you probably have to deal with each situation on an individual basis. Just like Tamir Rice. I mean, he had seconds. He had seconds before the cops started to respond. And that goes back to training, incompetence, being aware of the situation. And so I'm not a police officer, but hey, I have police officers in my family. I have military in my family. And so saying all that to say, you have a better chance of survival when you do comply than when you don't comply. Because going back to the point I was trying to make it earlier, at the end of the day, your job is to make it home safely. Your job is to make it home safely. And so by you going against the grain and saying, hey, you know what, why am I being arrested? You know, getting to the point that you're starting to resisting, that opens up a whole nother can of worms to where you might not make it home. Even my individual self, I've been stopped plenty of times. I've been stopped because they thought I was a person that robbed a Walmart, but surrounded by about 10 to 12 cops. I've been stopped twice because they thought I stole a car. I've been stopped twice. They thought I broke into a home. And so, yeah, I did have enough sense. Like I say, the old schools in my neighborhood is like, look, man, I can hear them in the back of my mind every time I got stopped. Never give these people the reason to act a fool. And yes, you have young brothers that are not getting the education that we got. that they're not getting it. Just I'm a school teacher. I teach in the hood. I see it every day. It's like they're not getting it. So it has to come to a point to where us that know better, we have to do our due diligence and go back and teach them how to navigate this system, because you're not always going to run into that friendly neighborhood cop. And so I think
Arrow, let me ask,
go ahead.
I want to ask you this quick, Arrow. So when does it become enough? When is it time to that we say it's enough that us in our community have to be beat down by these people in blue, when our counterparts, our own American citizens, they can call them folks anything but the name of God, but if we do the same thing, it's a death sentence. So when is it enough? When is compliance? We can comply. You said that's a rare occasion. That's not a rare occasion. That's almost a norm. That's why we sit there and when you see a cop walk up onto a citizen, especially a black man, you just see them shaking their hands with their hands on the steering wheel, because we don't know if we're going home that day, and we haven't even said a word yet. We don't know if that cop had a bad day, or we got one of those cops that are incompetent. We giving a lot of excuses for these cops. At the end of the day, you're wrong. At the end of the day, these 5 cops, I don't care if this man spat in their face, it's not a death sentence. That's why we got the system for. Okay, this guy could have threw a damn chair at these guys. He could have did anything but point a weapon at these police officers, and it shouldn't have been a death sentence. Being pulled over should not be a death sentence. When are we becoming judge and executioner? Our military has a rule of engagement. Okay, unless the enemy is shooting at them, they do not draw their weapons. It's a rule of engagement for our military. But yet we let our police go out here and shoot because I was afraid of my life. And it wasn't even that's your term. I was afraid of their life, or stop resisting. And now you have your cop out. Stop giving these guys cop out. Stop doing immunity and start holding our police officer and our folks that's supposed to be law enforcement and hold them accountable. I guarantee they're going to start thinking of their actions. That's simple. Stop saying, no, we got to start policing our community. No, these police officers need to stop beating and killing our own people or our own American citizens. That's simple. Stop giving them excuses.
What we need to do, I'm not giving them any excuse, because anybody that does what they did, it's not right. 2 wrongs don't make a right. But what I'm also saying is that we as a people need to start policing ourselves and start getting ourselves right. Because just like I was saying just a moment ago, we are dealing with a bunch of ignorance right now. And until we decide that we're going to keep our black politicians accountable, it's not the white politicians that's doing it to us no more. It is our elected officials, that whoever the city council person is over that particular area where that unit was at. If I was on the city council, I would be all in the police department's butt right now, dealing with that issue, because it's in my community.
But this is my question, Marshall. Why was that unit even put together? I mean, it's a lot that we can
unpack.
Yeah, we can unpack. But like Herman said, that was really what I had 2 things. The first thing is, as us sitting on here tonight, truthfully, if you got pulled over, or better yet, I don't know if you guys have sons. I have sons, and one of the fears that I'm now dealing with is the fact that my son 15 and he wants to drive, and I'm truthfully worried. How would it look if my son, and Herman, I'm also one of them, I fight the good fight a different way as a pastor, but how would it look if my son is leaving football practice and his friends are in the car, and because it's 2023, I ain't gonna buy him it ain't like it was growing up and you just got the hand-me-down and the little Toyota Corolla and it was cool, but you're gonna have 4 16 between 16 to 18-year-old kids in a car. I'm worried. That's the truth of the matter. I'm worried. Am I scared of the police? No. My brother's a police officer. I got police officers in my church. But I go back to that day. I was pulled over, and the dude is literally tapping on the back of my car. And I rolled down all my windows. And I'm like, hey, how you doing, officer? Just speaking normally because I'm not scared. And his purpose was, your windows are too dark. How long have you had this car? And I'm like, dude, I've had this car over 2 years, and I drive by the police every day. Yeah. And nobody's ever pulled me over. But as you said, we almost literally have to police ourselves with their temperament. We got to figure out how they feeling today. Hey, officer, are you okay today? Hey, did your wife make you breakfast and lunch? Hey, are your children okay? Just so I don't get either my head blown off or my head kicked off my shoulders. What happened to the police being protect and serve? I'm back with what you said, Marshall. I think we are hiring police officers. Yes, they are overworked, but we also are hiring police officers just to fill positions. But these guys a lot of these guys do not have the ability to deal with all walks of races. And what happens with the academy is this: they take these kids out of the academy, and the first place they dump them at is in the hood.
In the streets. In the
they
hood.
Dump them right in the hood. They send these white cops, young black cops, and they put them right in the hood. I'm like, I work in the school system as well. I'm able to attract. I've had people turning guns, turning drugs, because I took the time to learn them. The mission of the police department was to protect and serve. We're not protecting and serving if people are nervous. When did we ever start being scared to be around the police? They used to have a program called Dare.
Right.
That was for the police. You got to meet the police. But now people are literally scared when the police pull up because they don't know what the response is going to be. That's the crazy part.
And Glenn, here's the other problem. We got a media that's perpetrating the problem. They making it more than what it actually is. They putting it out there, and we watching the television, and we seeing what they are putting on as a narrative, rather than we understanding what we need to do for our own communities. That's all I'm saying. All right, we say, okay, let's put us some black officers inside of the black community. That'll solve the problem. Well, look what just happened. We had 5 black police officers just beat the heck out of a person, just like they did George Floyd.
Now I call it what it is. They beat the hell out of him.
Well, I'm not trying to curse. You know what I'm saying?
But again, I go back.
Hell ain't gonna get us kicked off.
Marshall, we go back to it's not about. We're not. I don't look at them again as black, white, or whatever. It's behind that thin blue line that they like to say. Like I'm behind I got my shield, brother of Alpha Phi Alpha. So at the end of the day, they are cops that's been indoctrinated. Okay, from the inception, when they got to the academy, they tell them they are the enemies out there. Okay, so if we're the enemies, there's still rules of engagement. There's still ways that yes, every situation is different. Okay, but at the end of the day, their job is to go home, and our job is to go home. But at the end of the day, they're supposed to have been trained. They're supposed to have been trained to deal with us and all our temperaments and all our attitudes. Again, we can call them everything but this, because the white folks get to do it. We've seen it day in and day out. That kid went in and shot up all them people in South Carolina church, and they took that man to the Burger King.
Hold on, brothers. Let me jump in. I've been letting y'all go for a minute as I work through these technical difficulties over here. This is a great conversation, but I gotta wrap it up. So no, I appreciate everybody. So 30 seconds. I'm gonna come to you, Arrow, first. 30 seconds. Y'all give me your last thoughts and takeaways as we close this wonderful conversation on the Damien Network. Go ahead, Arrow. 30 seconds.
Well, I think that one of the biggest things that we need to do is definitely hold our elected leaders accountable, because if we had put in some type of reform a long time ago to where if something like this happens, that the fear of God was put into these cops, we wouldn't keep on having to repeat this cycle. I mean, this has been going on for Lord knows how long. And so until we put something in place to where the cops, they already know if I act a fool or if I go this far, there are going to be some